Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
Has anyone here ever been abducted by aliens? I hear stories about this and it fascinates me. Some people who live near me think they have been visited in the night by some alien thing, but are too scared about being ridiculed to tell many people. Any abduction or visitation stories? Is this a real thing or just in our minds?
For anyone who's afraid to even see pictures of aliens, there's a pretty big chance you were abducted once before. I used to think my mom was crazy when she'd tell me we were both abducted once when I was younger. It wasn't until I was older and began to take notice of waking up standing over my bed constantly. I used to think it was random sleepwalking, till I began to notice weird things like my shirt would be inside out. My clothes would sometimes be backwards, or I'd be chanting to myself. I began to connect two and two eventually. Probably my worst experience as I remember it. I don't really know what happened, but I can only assume it was related to aliens. I'm not making this up, it's real. If you don't believe it, that's totally fine. Be me in sophomore year of high school. Just moved into a new apartment. Been getting creepy vibes all that week. Finally get room set up with an old TV. Noticed that night that the TV would constantly turn on and act all strange, fuzzy, channel flipping, etc. Told myself it was ghosts or some shit only half serious. Had a lot of weird stuff like that happen that week, so didn't pay it much mind. Go to sleep. Suddenly slowly begin to wake up, as if sobering up from a high. At first everything is blurry, but I can begin to make observations of my area around me. I'm propped up unnaturally against the head of my bed, with pillows stacked neatly for support. My blankets are completely tucked around me perfectly clean, which is weird since I'm known for kicking them off the bed. I realize I'm mumbling to myself and laughing. I then notice my TV is on. It's now that I snap into half consciousness, though I can't move as if in sleep paralysis. The TV is rapidly flipping channels, as if I had hit the reset button. However, the images are weird and not necessarily something you'd see on TV. First, it shows an all-white background with black silhouettes of figures, probably about 5 standing. Then it shows a black and white picture of an amoeba. Then it shows a white-robed figure dancing in a field. Reminded me instantly of some sort of pagan worship dance. Back to the silhouettes now noticeably closer. Back to the white-robed figure holding a sign outside of a red-bricked house with weird foreign language that I can only describe as looking like the unknown Pokemon. Then to random infomercials. Back to the silhouettes now even closer. It's now that I begin to panic. I notice the TV is making an insanely loud buzzing noise. Now there are 2 amoeba. A single door opens. A scene of a family eating dinner. Now there's just one silhouette standing amongst the background. I can make out the familiar bulbous head. I panic and throw my head under the covers and begin to scream and freak out. Stop, leave me alone. Suddenly the buzzing stops. I look up and the TV has stopped on a random infomercial, like in the high thousands that no one ever flips to normally. I stay up the rest of the night paranoid out of my mind with all the lights on. Once or twice I notice the channels begin to flip again, prompting me to quickly turn the TV off. Think back the next day about what happened. Begin to put 2 and 2 together. The family eating dinner was in my old living room, though I didn't recognize the family. The robed figure standing outside a house, that was my old childhood home where my mom said I got abducted. The field was a local area not too far off from where I was staying. The door was to the apartment we just moved into. And that was the scariest night of my life. Choose to believe it or not, I know I certainly wouldn't if it didn't happen to me. I know it wasn't sleep paralysis because I've been under self-induced sleep paralysis. It was a totally different feeling. Welp, there you are, /x/.
I wish I'd be abducted. I did once see a UFO though, so that's something. I don't know whether it was actually an alien spaceship, just that it was a flying object and it was unidentified. It was 2008 or 2009, and I was walking home from work at about 9 p.m. I stopped by a nearby 7-Eleven and got myself an iced coffee. Before going indoors, I noticed a bright white circle in the sky, although I assumed it was some new light being put up to illuminate the car park. Anyway, I leave the 7-Eleven, and about a block later, I notice the orb still in the sky. The thing is, the moon was literally right next to it, so I know it wasn't the moon. Pretty weird. Anyway, I continue south, walking home, and before long I notice the orb is following me, and is pretty much directly to the east of me. I do the Vulcan salute, give him a smile, and keep walking home. About 20 minutes later, I arrive home, the orb's still following me, and I call out to my sister, whose bedroom is at the front of the house. I tell her to come check this out, but the orb is moving away ridiculously fast, and she misses it. The orb continues south, in the same direction I was walking, and then starts heading upwards, and disappears.
I was abducted with my best friend. We were freestyling in my room on a tape deck. We both feel like something powerful is watching us all of a sudden. Can't rap, we both vocalize the feeling. Weird sound and a light beams around me. I lose consciousness, or at least can't remember what happened in this instant. My best friend says the light beams around me and I start talking in another voice and language, demonic sounding. He reaches and pushes record on the tape deck. I get enraged. My jaw stretches down and screams at him. Bed is coming off the ground. My entire body turns to small atoms molecules and I'm sucked up through the ceiling. Wake up on a table. There's people standing around me. I feel a great deal of pain in my head. One of them touched my forehead and the pain goes away. It's a very white room, cold metal table. I realize they're not doctors. They're small gray aliens. Lose consciousness. See my best friend in this other room where we are sitting talking. I can't remember about what. All of a sudden we're back sitting on my bed. We look at each other, don't say a word. I say I need cigarettes. He agrees with a nod. We walk into Walgreens. I notice we don't appear on the camera display, but the person standing right by us does. Point it out to my best friend quietly. He looks at me like I should know. We get back, spark a cig, and he says, "Do you want to talk about it?" We both burst into tears. Go grab the tape deck. Tape deck is 45 minutes into one side. There is nothing recorded on it, like all recordings were swiped. We look in the mirror, we're both just standing there. At the same time, we both start laughing, jumping up and down, high-fiving, saying we made it back. There are other details, but I don't know if you assholes will even give this the light of day. Has anybody ever experienced anything like this? I was mentally fucked up for a long time over this, I can barely type it. Now this happened 3.5 years ago.
/X/ Do you believe in aliens? As a child, I believe I was getting abducted on a regular basis. I would wake up in the middle of the night and see humanoid figures, literally on my window, peering through my blinds. As soon as I would move, they would crawl out of view. I would also wake up and see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet lights swirling on a clearly disc-shaped object. When I would ask my mom about it, she was very adamant about the fact it was just people smoking cigarettes. All of it stopped when I was woken up one night. I couldn't properly wake up, but what woke me up was the feeling of being tickled in several places on my body. I confronted my family about it the next day, and they had no idea what I was talking about. What do you think it could have been? The only disorders I have are trichotillomania and moderate depression. I have never had a psychotic break or anything similar. The thought of it doesn't really scare me, nor am I actually certain this is what was happening, but it's the only logical explanation for me.
So I just now made a connection in my memory, and if my perception of time is not wrong, then I believe I might have been abducted. I have a memory from, I believe, when I was 5 years old, which I guess I had always sort of remembered, but just never thought of it in that light before. I was 5. It was summer turning into fall here, Central Texas, so our windows and doors were open to let the breeze in. I was up way past my bedtime, probably 11:30 to 12 a.m., and it was raining outside, and there was some lightning. My door was open because I was still a little babby, and I start to hear this weird whistling melody from seemingly outside on the other side of the house. I kept hearing it as it seemed to move around the corner of my house to the door under my parents' bedroom. At this point, I got up out of bed and ventured into the hallway. I remember being really cold, shivering, and the musical sound getting louder as it seemed to enter the house. I'm not sure that I was afraid. I think maybe I was more intrigued by the sound than creeped out. But I remember standing at the top of the stairs and hearing the music get louder. Then a faint green glow reflecting off the tile, but whatever was producing the light then went out, and the music quieted. I moved quietly halfway down the stairs and looked into the kitchen. I saw the shadow of something moving in the dark, had a brief flash of an oddly shaped face, similar to traditional descriptions of aliens, and the music got loud again. And then all I remember is some light. I think I was outside, then I was back on my stairs, and then nothing until I wake up the next morning on top of my covers. The obvious explanation is that I had a dream about aliens because I had heard about them and found them scary. But I never heard about aliens before. The first time I did was in second grade when I read an almanac about alien encounters and sightings. But what I just remembered is the reason I checked that book out in the first place. The reason I was interested in it was because I recognized the face of the alien on the cover from my experience. At the time I just didn't register it, but the reason these stories were so interesting to me was because they were similar to that one memory I couldn't really explain and really just ended up ignoring for most of my life. Guys, I think I knew about aliens before the concept was ever actually introduced to me by modern culture. I think my first introduction to them was firsthand. If I'm not just fucking up my memory and getting the order wrong, I think I was fucking abducted. I'm not even sure that I really commit to the belief that aliens have visited Earth, but if they had, it would give some much-needed context to this weird-ass memory I have.
Walking back from the store. Late dusk, no stars yet. Headphones in, good times. Contemplating legitimacy of UFOs. Decide it's 50-50, neither believe nor disbelieve. Think to myself, look up. Black triangle gliding across the sky. Thought it was a helicopter at first from its size. Thing was real close, but absolutely silent. 3 amber lights on each corner. Pulsing red light in the middle like it was breathing. Not blinking. Gently passes overhead, slightly tilted. Takes a little over 2 minutes to pass out of eyesight. In the distance, I still see the red pulsing as it careens around for another loop. Huh? I guess they are real. The thing stuck out like a sore thumb. It was like, really obvious. Really obvious. I always imagined my first sighting would be staring at a star, watching it move a little, and wondering if it was my eyes playing tricks on me. But no. The moment I was willing to ease up on my doubt, while simultaneously fully accepting the possibility that all UFOs were merely natural phenomena, I saw the truth. Like seriously, the craft was either big enough or close enough to block out the sun if it had been daytime.
I want to share this dream I had with /x/ because something in me is compelling me to share it. I don't know why, but I have this need to share. Before I begin, I want to say at the outset that this was a very vivid dream. I am able to recall the sequence of events from the dream better than most dreams I have. I would like some thoughts from you all on why this dream is so vivid and clear to me. Anyways, here's how it went. The setting of the dream was present day, but for some reason I kept getting cues that the year was 2022, so obviously in the past. The dream began in a classroom or school. The class was talking about recent events, and the discussion was on recent contact humans made with aliens. There were news reports that the aliens were aggressive at first and were causing harm to humans. However, I later learned that the aggressive nature of the aliens died down upon their first contact with humans, and instead the aliens were now taking a more observational and experimental type approach to us. After this discussion, the class boarded a school bus and the bus was taking us somewhere, presumably home because it made many stops. One of the classmates on the bus, I think they had some kind of handicap, was very knowledgeable about the aliens. He told me that you could sense when the aliens were close by because physical vibrations would ring through the air and you could feel these vibrations tingle your body. As the bus made its stops, I started to feel the vibrations. There was an alien in the bus, though I could not see it. I exited the bus and began to walk down a long road. The bus disappeared entirely, and there was nothing but road for a little bit. As I traveled down the road, I came across people. These people were moving slowly, almost like they were in a zombie-like trance. They could barely move from the spot that they stood at. As I began to walk by the people, I felt my movement begin to slow, and I began to walk as if I were in slow motion. Everything around me slowed considerably, and I felt like I entered into the trance. I kept walking and finally reached a large building structure. I entered this building, and it was instantly familiar in setting. It looked very similar in layout to my elementary school from 2005, but on a grand scale. In the building, I came across this man. The man looked like an ordinary human being, but I instantly recognized that he was an alien. I can only suspect that the alien had shape-shifted, or was using some technology to scramble my brain to make me think I was seeing something other than the being's true form. I instantly befriended the alien in an attempt to gain favor with these beings. I asked the alien various questions, and he communicated with me just like you and I would communicate. He waved his hand at me, and I instantly felt the slow motion I was in disappear, almost like he had ended the trance I was in. We continued to talk, and the alien told me that the aliens were emitting frequencies and energy waves to control humans and put us in a trance-like state. The alien told me that they had stopped being hostile to humans and instead were putting us all through experiments for some unknown reason. I continued through the building with the alien, and he showed me humans performing different activities all in a trance-like state. I kept asking the alien more and more questions because I wanted as much knowledge as I could get about who they were and what they wanted. I could tell this was angering and perturbing the alien, so he put me back in my trance. There were other aliens nearby when this happened, but they all looked like regular humans. I never got to see what the alien's true form looked like, but I kept getting the intuition throughout the dream that they were insections or insect-like. Once I was put back into the trace, I could feel this strong gravitational pull whisk me away to a room that could only be described as what used to be a library. But what used to be a library was now full with extraterrestrial computers. The keyboard was labeled with foreign keys and symbols, and I got this feeling that the aliens wanted me to type something onto the keyboard. There were literally hundreds of computers, and other humans were typing as well. I typed what came to mind, and I could see printers printing out the results of the humans' inputs. I was removed from the computer by another human-looking alien, and it told me I was finished here and I could head back home. It told me to talk out a large door and to clear my mind, and I would find myself home. The alien specifically said if the mind-clearing technique does not work, there are other ways to get me home. I walked through the door, cleared my mind, and found myself not home. Instead of home, I was in a subway train station-like area, except the things around were no trains. They looked like trains, but in reality they were time-traveling vessels. The aliens had discovered how to time travel using some technique unknown to mankind. I approached one older female alien, still looked like a human, but I knew that was not its true form. This alien was very kind, and she made me know that it was her job to make sure I got home. All of the humans at the depot were assigned random numbers and waited for their time-traveling train to arrive. The numbers would assign you a year and a location that you would arrive at. For example, you might get assigned the year 2002 and be transported to the state of Texas in that year. I told the nice older alien lady that I was from Georgia and I wanted to go back to that state in the year 2022 or 23. The alien lady said she would try her best to get me that ticket, but there were no guarantees. I received my first ticket and waited to board the time-traveling train. As a group of us waited for the train, we shot the bull with each other, and we talked to another alien lady about the state of things. We asked the alien lady who they thought was the most intelligent human to ever live, and she quickly responded with Albert Einstein. In fact, she said they used Einstein's theory of relativity as a starting point for developing time travel. The train finally arrived, and I ended up in Wisconsin in the year 2013. This was not where I wanted to be, so I went into deep thought in an attempt to communicate with the aliens. A random stranger nearby approached me and suddenly froze everything in time. He was actually one, and the aliens, and asked me what was wrong. I told him I wanted to be in Georgia in the present day. He said he would work on trying to get me back to my time, but that if it didn't work, I could stay in the year 2013. And after what would feel like a couple of months in that time would actually be several years, and I would be caught back up to my time. He explained that time in the past moves faster than time in the present and future. Fortunately, this alien was able to find me a new ticket, and I was then transported to Birmingham, Alabama in the year 2017. Obviously, this was still not the right time, but at least I was closer in time to the present and geographically closer to home. The dream ended there.
Yeah, I was once visited. Scared the shit out of me. Wish I could see it again. So many questions I should have asked. Yet the manner in which it presented itself was rather startling. I was watching modern marvels in my room, on my bed, eating a bowl of ramen noodles. They were rather spicy, too, I might add, sitting Indian style. All of a sudden, everything went black, and I was laying on my bed. Then out of the corner of my eye, I see a light, and I couldn't really move. Until this point, I moved my head over and out of the light. I see a humanoid figure. I squint my eyes to see it better. I'm feeling rather nervous. It walks into my sight. I could see it clear as day. Had to be 6 or 7 feet tall. Other than that, pretty much dead on gray alien description. I believe they communicate telepathically, because I could hear it in my head, and it had no mouth. It said it meant me no harm, and it was trying to warn me of something. But as I previously stated, I was really nervous, so I was freaking out, trying to squirm away or yell or anything, but all I could do was move my head or my eyes, not my mouth, nothing. I finally yelled out for my mother, and I returned in an instant to sitting Indian style, with my cup of ramen now all over me from startling. I walk around the house, no one is home. It's weird because everyone was just home a minute before that. They would have told me if they left. I was so confused for months. Shit. I'm still confused. I wish I could speak with it again.
I can't remember in what order these events happened in, and sometimes I forget some of them completely for long periods of time. But hopefully, I remember all the important or creepy ones. The first one that comes to mind was one night when my father woke up to strange sounds coming from our hallway. When he got up and turned on the light, he saw that it was just me sleepwalking, pulling and twisting the doorknob. He asked me what I was doing, and I told him I had something to do. He asked me what, and I only said that I had to go outside, that they told me to. At that point, he just picked me up and took me to bed, where I fell asleep instantly. The next morning, I didn't remember anything until they started telling me what had happened. Then I remembered that I had a very strange dream, where I woke up in my bed in the middle of the night and could see some small and soft lights moving outside. I remember thinking that they were drops of water from the rain that were illuminated by our garden lights. Then I pulled on the curtains to get a better look and could see how the lights were moving in a circular pattern up and down after each other. I couldn't remember more than that, but that dream and the coincidence of what my father told me he had seen was enough to scare me for many, many years. Another one I remember was another night, maybe the same summer as the story above, but this happened definitely after the first story. I was camping on a mattress by the side of the pool with my mother. We were looking up at the stars and trying to see some satellites fly by, something that was quite common to be seen. I remember pointing to a satellite I had just spotted that I thought looked unusually bright. My mother just said, As it was flying straight overhead, it just stopped right above us. At this instant, I was overwhelmed with something that felt like fear, but not quite. Maybe it was somewhere between awestruck and scared. Then the light became brighter and seemed to not only be white, but red and orange too. The light had rays rotating and going outwards like the old Japanese flag of the rising sun. I felt like I could not move. Finally, I looked down to my mother, who seemed to be ignoring what was happening right before us. I asked her if she was seeing the light. She said it looked pretty in a very monotone voice. Then as I looked up again, the light became a single white point again and started moving again. Once it was gone, I ran inside to tell my father, who was always interested in sci-fi, astronomy, and was more willing to talk about UFOs, although he didn't really believe it. He comforted me and told me that it was probably just a military flare that the Navy had shot, or that maybe I had seen a meteor burn up in the atmosphere. While I was sure about what I saw, he did manage to calm me down. Then I took him to the pool so that my mother could tell him what we saw. She just said that we saw an unusually bright shooting star. I knew that it could not be a shooting star, nor a satellite. I didn't really know what it was. We talked about it for a few days after that, but it wasn't until years later that I suddenly remembered the event and asked my parents if they remember that, mentioning how strange my mother's reaction, or lack of a reaction, was, but they both denied that ever happening. Still today, I don't know what happened, but in my head it still looks crystal clear. I want to believe that it was a meteor or a flare, but the images I have in my mind of that night can't convince me. Another strange dream I had around the time of the first story was that of me and my mother, in a car driving in some dark tunnel when all the lights went out. As we drove to the end of the tunnel, we could see many cars parked there looking up. As I looked upwards from the car's window, hundreds of tiny spheres were floating high up in the sky, some shooting past each other and some just swaying slowly. I felt the same way I felt when I saw the UFO in the second story, when while eating breakfast I saw on the TV exactly what I had seen in my dream. Somewhere in South America, people were talking about a mass UFO sighting. The best I can find that looked like that news coverage is the following photo. Some more normal sightings were seeing spherical lights moving in fast and strange manners through the night sky, hearing weird buzzing noises in my room late at night, sleepwalking and just rambling or staring at the big window pane at the dining room. Also, there was a time when I was so scared of aliens that it became impossible for me to watch any movies or TV shows that showed them in any way. I feel like I'm forgetting many other such events, but I can't remember right now. It's like when you forget a word and you have it at the tip of your tongue but can't remember what it was. Ever since these events, and also thanks to my father's interest in sci-fi and astronomy, I have taken up astrophysics as my career choice and am currently studying in university. Ever since those events, I have felt a drive pushing me towards astronomy and science.
I'll try and type this as clearly as possible to give you a feel of the event. OP. This happened 12 years ago in London. I was outside smoking a cigarette on a third-floor flat balcony. It was around 11 p.m. Across the street from me, on the other side of the road, was an orange ball of light, roughly about the size of a large beach ball. Pick-related. It was pulsating. My first thought was, it's a streetlight that has fallen from its lamppost. So I squinted a bit and focused on the object. It was roughly about the same as a large beach ball, and as bright as a streetlight or torch. I couldn't see any features. Then it started rising, silently, slowly, steadily, until it reached a height of about 30 feet. It then stopped, frozen, no movement, not blowing in the wind, just hanging there. It's a fucking Chinese lantern. I'm thinking, but it wasn't moving. I could tell because there were buildings, lampposts, walls, etc. stationary objects around that I could use as a gauge. It wasn't moving. What the fuck is that? I said out loud. It hung in the air at 30 feet for about 30 seconds. Then suddenly just started moving south, in a straight line, at around 20 to 30 miles per hour. It kept the same height of 30 feet. It wasn't fast, but after a minute or two, it had disappeared over the horizon buildings. I won't speculate as to what it was, but I'll tell you this. It definitely, 100%, was not a Chinese lantern. It was either being controlled or was intelligent. It was silent. It didn't blow in the wind. Its stopping and accelerating were sudden and sharp, not gradual. Make of it what you will. I'd love to find an answer to what it was.
Be down in the woods with my friends a couple of weeks ago. We see a strange light in the sky. It's white like a star, but a bit bigger. Looks to be really low, though, just over the tops of the trees. It's moving slowly but steadily across the sky. We watched it for about 10 minutes, both just joking and laughing. Wow, you think it's a UFO? Maybe we're going to get abducted by aliens. The light comes to about the center of the horizon. Suddenly it just flickers out in a strange way, like it's broken into bits and fallen. Very weird. We both agree it's weird and wish we had been recording it on our camera phones. We go back to just chatting about shit and drinking our beers, quickly forget about it. After a while, my friend says he needs to go take a piss and goes off slightly out of sight. While he's away, I'm sure I see something moving in the woods in the distance, but it's dark and hard to be sure. Figure it must be an animal or something like that. Suddenly my friend comes barging into view. "Anon, we need to get out of here now!" Starts just running off without a word more. I follow him. What the fuck, man? "Anon, I saw something in the woods." He's visibly shaken. He's freaking me out, but I'm still half convinced this is some sort of elaborate prank. "What the fuck did you see?" "I don't know, man. A fucking alien or something. We need to get out of here now." Now I'm convinced he's trying to prank me, and I stop. "A fucking alien? Yeah, very good, man. Haha, you got me." He screams at me. He's hysterical. "Man, I fucking seen something. We need to get out of here now." Freaking out again. I've never seen him this agitated in my life. I'm not sure I've ever seen anyone this agitated. We run for a bit more, but begin getting tired out, so reduced to just walking fast. At one point, I'm sure there's like a flash from behind us, like when there's lightning and everything lights up for a second. We begin running a bit again. We are full on freaking out now. I ask him what he saw again, to describe it. He said it looked like a really skinny, emaciated person with big black eyes. I don't want to see it. After a while, we've ran to exhaustion. Can barely walk beyond normal pace now, panting heavily. We see another flash like from before. We're too tired to move any faster. Now we hear a really strange sound. It's strange and metallic, kind of like scraping two pieces of metal together slowly. It begins just in small bursts, but then becomes long and dragged out. It sounds like it's really close to us. We're still like half an hour's walk away from town. The noise is extremely upsetting. My friend is now crying. Not like him at all. I'm fucking freaking out. Scrape! Another flash. Scrape! We reach the end of the woods, but in the clearing up ahead, we can clearly make out 4 tall silhouettes, along with what looks like a small flashing light moving around quickly just above head height. They start coming towards us. My friend falls to his knees, screaming at them. "Just leave us alone. Leave us the fuck alone, you horrible things." I don't know what to do. I'm frozen to the spot and my mind is racing. My friend goes instantly quiet once they come within a few feet of him. I can finally make out what they look like. Look exactly as how you see them in movies and stuff. Big heads and spindly bodies with giant eyes that are absolutely terrifying to look into. They're hard to stop looking at, like hypnotic. The last thing I remember before blacking out is one of them looking straight at me and saying, "Ayy Lmao."
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel, as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.